Greetings, mortals! Welcome to another session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell. I'm Diva, your judge, jury, executioner, and ruler of the Pig Kingdom. I am endlessly fascinated by great musicals that emerge from source material that you wouldn't think would work as a musical. Come on, what would you have said 5 years ago if someone told you the biggest thing on Broadway would be based on an 832-page biography about a Treasury Secretary?
You laugh, but it's true!
Similarly, Hans Christian Andersen's The Princess and the Pea, a fairy tale so slight that it's more of an anecdote than a story. Girl claims she's a princess, queen has doubts, one dangerous sleeping arrangement later, everything is sorted. Not much to go on, yet Once Upon a Mattress fleshes out the story with an unconventional princess, a conniving, smother-mothering queen, a mute king, a beta couple with a vested interest in seeing the prince married, and whatever that is, resulting in a charming staple of school and amateur production groups. But it takes a certain amount of skill to pull off a feat like that, something which the creators of our next offender, The Princess and the Pea, did not have. This obscure 2002 movie comes to us from Feature Films for Families, a Utah-based company that boasts of distributing family movies with family values. I always get a little suspicious of organizations that throw the word family around that much. Quadruple F proudly boasts of the film winning 2 Accolade Competition Awards of Excellence, whatever those are, but neglect to mention that the studio has been subject to multiple lawsuits for violating telemarketing regulations. So much for family values. As for the rest, let's examine the case of The Princess and the Pea. Apparently this movie is a semi-sequel to the original fairy tale, as a talking raven named Sebastian explains that once upon a time the princess who had a pea in her bed became a good queen who ruled in love and justice, but years passed and people became mean and stuff.
Now, the last chapter will close on Wyndham's reign, and a new one... Oh, pin feathers! Tomorrow, the greedy Prince Laird will be made king, and I fear all will be lost.
So yeah, it's your basic fill-in-the-blanks fantasy setup. Good King so-and-so has ruled justly and well, but now the land is under the threat of the evil somebody or other, and only the mystical what's-its-butt can save us. Which probably all has something to do with this mysterious scroll thing uncovered by the laughably named Prince Rollo, but never mind that now because opening chorus number.
My, the air smells fresh and clean, what a lovely day.
Never has there been a more pleasant month of May.
Weeds need a whacking, it's time to get cracking and greet the morning.
The first song, Karazian, is also the first sin. Alan Williams' music is nice enough, but the lyrics don't really set the scene. You can tell he was just shoving the proper number of syllables into the line without any concern of how well it flowed.
Sorry girl, the yoke is on you.
Rollo brings the scroll, actually an old tapestry of some sort, to Sebastian, who is the keeper of the kingdom's knowledge because, sure, why not? The tapestry is a formula for discovering princesses, but it's so frayed at the end that Sebastian can't figure it out even though everyone over the age of 5 knows where this is going. It's always frustrating to watch characters struggle to figure out what's painfully obvious to the audience. Also, there's some prophecy that if this princess detection knowledge is lost, the land will fall into ruin during the reign of the 18th king, who is slated to be the soon-to-be coronated Prince Laird.
It takes a man who knows his mind, my little pumpkin. A true leader to put people in their place.
Any villain song that starts with the villain wearing shoes on his hands is not in a good place. Sin number 2, the way the movie handles its villains and its heroes in general. As you might expect from a studio that loudly proclaims its family values, the characters in this movie have all the nuance of a sledgehammer to the face. The good guys are a collection of ineffectual drips whose only character trait and virtue is their overriding niceness.
You're not good, you're not bad, you're just nice.
And the villains? Well, they're your typical passel of two-dimensional, unapologetically evil nasties that you find in badly thought-out children's movies, but it's even more frustrating because there's actual potential for compelling antagonists in these characters. Let's start with Laird, who has his It's Good to Be Bad villain song with That's What It Takes to Rule, where he brags about how he's going to basically oppress everybody while throwing food around and getting into a ridiculously self-righteous scolding by little Prince Rollo.
I've got no is ruling anyone.
But you don't dare say another word to me.
I should be king.
He does. When I'm crowned, I'll have you hung, drawn, and quartered, and I'll squash your measly kingdom like a bug.
This kind of petulant childishness can be effective, even terrifying in a villain. Get a load of this guy, for example. But only if the villain's capacity for violence and cruelty is great enough to contrast his immature behavior. Laird never does anything truly horrific beyond temporarily endangering the heroes, so he just comes off as being a tiresome buffoon. Next, we have his wife Helsa, who gets exactly one scene that might indicate her character has some depth, which is then frustratingly forgot about so that the movie can focus on her primary trait, which is that she likes to eat.
We appreciate you coming. It will ease my burden.
Oh, just make sure I get 4 square meals a day, plus snacks.
Are we supposed to think Helsa is fat? Because she's really not, especially by the standards of animation, which tends to exaggerate physical features. I can't tell if the animators were trying to defy convention by making an average-build character a glutton, or if they have really skewed body standards, or if they just didn't put a whole lot of thought into the character design. As for Laird and Helsa's daughter Hildegard, well, there's an entirely different subset of issues going on there as well, so we'll get back to her. So Rollo tells Laird he's a big meanie pants and that the crown should go to Laird's blandly decent brother Heath instead. Too bad Heath is the younger son and can't make a proper claim to the throne. Except that Sebastian explains he can.
It wasn't for that stupid old rule that the oldest is crowned king.
Actually, the law of the fathers states that the first son to enter the coronation room shall be crowned king.
All right, first, any tradition that guarantees Coronation Day will look like a Black Friday doorbuster sale is a bad idea. Second, this is an example of sin number 3, the inexplicably random plot development. Story elements are convoluted or introduced abruptly without any proper establishment, or are abandoned just as quickly. The whole fall during the 18th king bit, for example. It's thrown into the story, but never becomes an established threat and then is kind of forgot about. Or this sudden loophole about entering the coronation room first, which is handled particularly badly. As it so happens, on the big day Laird is late going down because he can't find his special gold coronation shoes. Yeah.
I can't be seen barefoot.
What about your brother?
That's it.
Heath, fetch my shoes immediately.
But
As your future king, I command it.
So yeah, despite his ambition and lust for power, Laird couldn't be bothered to learn about the one fucking thing he needed to do in order to be crowned king. And judging by how perplexed he is when he enters the throne room and gets named successor instead, it's news to Heath as well. If this is any indication of how King What's-His-Name educated his sons, I'd say this country is screwed no matter how many vegetables you stick under people's mattresses. Obviously, Laird is a bit tetchy about losing out on the throne, and King Heath's first proclamation doesn't do much to smooth things over.
And what I do for you is in your best interest. I assign you rule over the Pig Kingdom.
Well, no wonder he's upset. Ruler of the Pig Kingdom ranks right up there with Prince of the Land of Stench and Mayor of Detroit on the list of least enviable titles. Of course, Laird promises he will have his revenge! In a moment that's surprisingly effective.
Vow these golden shoes will never leave my feet until I have regained that which is rightfully mine.
Until he says that. Meanwhile, Queen Generically Pretty decides to throw her husband another curveball.
It's a baby blanket, silly.
You mean we're...
See, it's a family movie. We can't go around talking about where babies come from. Think of the children. 9 months later, Laird's schemes of revenge, there were schemes of revenge apparently, have come to naught and he's all ready to kick off his stinky blood oath shoes and give up. So much for that particular gimmick. Even the birth of his daughter isn't enough to deter his sulking. Good thing the plot progression herald is here to move things along.
His Majesty, King Heath, proclaims a day of mourning. His beloved wife, Queen Mariana, died today, giving birth to a baby girl.
So you can have a plot point about a woman dying in childbirth, but you can't say the word pregnant. Family values for you right there. Anyway, this gets Laird a-plotting, and he writes to Heath claiming his own daughter died in infancy, and Helsa is sent to act as a wet nurse for the princess, while Laird sneaks in their own child through the dungeons, and really, if this scheme gets any more elaborate, I want some dragons or a snarky dwarf to liven up the proceedings. Yes, I know that's my second Game of Thrones reference in 10 minutes, but I can't help it. I'm so stoked that Season 6 is finally here. Anyway, Helsa arrives just as Sebastian is conducting a disturbingly thorough examination of the baby princess.
One birthmark, heart shape, left foot.
Hold on to that image for a moment. In the dead of night, Laird switches his and Helsa's daughter for the princess. Helsa will stay on to make sure the little girl grows up with all the proper evil qualities, but in her one stab at character development, she begs Laird not to harm their niece because she too lost her mother at an early age and whatever. It's just a convenient reason for Laird to drop the kid off with a foster family instead of drowning it in a river, basically. The lost princess grows up under the name Daria, and her step-family, consisting of Lord Everglot and the orphanage owner from the Christmas tree, abuse her and force her to do all the work per the norm. So Daria goes about her daily routine singing a generic I Want song to her generic sidekick pigs in a generic Disney princess voice.
Down the meadow, past the ravine, does the grass grow? Greener than green are there places I've never dreamed of out in the wide open world.
Meanwhile, Laird and Helsa's daughter has grown up as the vain and haughty Princess Hildegard, and Heath is plagued by her selfish behavior while completely oblivious to the fact that his daughter happens to look exactly like his sister-in-law down to the mole on her chin. In fact, that's sin number 4. I don't believe this baby switch would have fooled anybody. Remember how Daria was sitting up earlier? That kid has to be around 6 months old. Shouldn't Heath have noticed that his cherubic green-eyed girl was suddenly replaced by a baby with a completely different eye color and facial structure? Didn't anybody notice the absence of the telltale royal birthmark before now? Or the royal baby blanket, which Laird didn't even bother to leave behind when he was swapping kids? The core conceit of this movie is just one big idiot plot.
That portrait is the same size as...
I know, my mother's.
I wanted to put you side by side. She would have liked that.
I've told you, I don't want to hear about my mother.
And again, Hildegard's behavior is another example of the two-dimensional character development. It would have been legitimately interesting if she was resentful for always being compared to her saintly dead mother, but the movie doesn't explore the possibility. Or rather, it considers it, then dismisses it in favor of, nah, she's just an evil person with evil DNA because evil. On the plus side, Daria narrowly avoided having to grow up with the name Hildegard, so I'd say she makes out in the long run. Oh, and at some point Sebastian learned that the whole princess test has something to do with peas and mattresses, but he doesn't know what and has a whole song about how the basic premise of the story doesn't make much sense. Can't argue with him there.
Is there something in your vapor that becomes unleashed when encountering a fuzzy feather bed? Do you buzz? Do you glow? Tell me, how do you know when a noble lady rests her head?
The now-grown Prince Rollo also wanders his way back into the plot, and he's dealing with the standard Prince Charming dilemma of, I must find a wife for political gain, but I really want to marry for love. Hildegard is immediately taken with him and his heir to a wealthy kingdomness, but Rollo is turned off by her instant wedding plans.
I have to wash my sword.
Oh, is that what the kids are calling it these days?
I'm late.
No matter, we all know it's only a matter of time before Rollo meets cute with Daria, in this case by seeing her leading her pigs home and believing she's walking into the path of a dangerous bear. But as fate would have it, Daria is friend to all the opposition's creatures, which of course is the next best thing to being an actual damsel in distress.
Remember, Balthazar, you're still the only bear in my life.
Good night, everybody.
Daria takes Rollo to her special private place. Mine's out of the gutter now, if you please, which is some kind of ruined cathedral where they sing their love ballad and sin number 5, Kingdom of the Heart. It's basically an anthem to the movie's Isn't It Nice to Be Nice philosophy.
Suddenly there's kindness, poetry, and art in my kingdom of the heart.
it's the fantasy element that makes this scene memorable in all the wrong ways.
In my perfect place, where songs will inspire every family blessed with food on the fire.
Come dance with us, Rollo, forever and ever and ever. Despite nearly being devoured by color forms people, Rollo is smitten with Daria, but the whole prince can't marry a peasant thing is a major issue, so he just stands her up without so much as a word of explanation. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen! So Rollo heads off with Sebastian in tow to find sin number 6, the perfect princess for me.
She's the one, she's perfect. So perfect in every way.
A pattern is quickly established in this song. Rollo meets a princess, is immediately taken with her beauty and grace. So much for that whole instant connection thing with Daria, huh? But then gets turned off when he discovers the girl is too pampered or vain or has a sense of humor. I don't think the song actually implies that the true purpose of a woman's virtue is to make her wife material, but it's a near miss.
You mean my treasure map is all about girls?
No, marrying girls.
Ugh.
Mostly the entire thing makes Rollo look like a twit.
I guess it's harder to fall in love than I thought.
I mean, I've fallen in love at first sight with every woman I've encountered and then rejected her just as quickly because she doesn't live up to my ideals of perfection. What am I doing wrong? Sebastian goes back to the drawing board with the P while explaining to Heath that Rollo is in love with Daria. Exposition by a secondary character does not count as relationship development, movie. Heath writes to Rollo explaining that he's decided to disinherit Hildegard, and he'll name Rollo his heir if Rollo marries the girl of his dreams, which Heath can do because... oh, forget it. I'm sure if the movie even bothered to ask the question, it would just have Sebastian rattle off some convenient ancient law justifying it. According to the sacred scrolls of whatchamacallit, the crown princess can be removed from the line of succession for obvious evilness, but only if a random prince from a nearby kingdom decides to marry below his station during a waxing crescent moon after eating 3 carrots and a plate of bubble and squeak. Helsa overhears Heath's plan and sends Laird's pet falcon to intercept the message in what is the chase scene equivalent of the opening sequence of Manos.
Altitude! I need altitude!
Sebastian is knocked to the ground, and Laird gets the message and decides to thwart Heath's plans by assembling an angry mob and claiming that Daria is a witch responsible for the drought plaguing the land. Oh yeah, there's a drought plaguing the land. Did the movie forget to mention that? Which everyone believes because Daria spends all her time talking to the pigs. Oh, it gets better. See, the bear from earlier in the movie shows up to defend Daria from the mob. Maybe there is something to that whole witch thing. So Laird decides just to have the entire damn forest burnt down. So while Daria weeps about how not nice the world is, and Rollo runs around yelling like an idiot for Daria, Sebastian wakes up among the creepy stained glass people just as the flames conveniently burn away the foliage, revealing the rest of the instant princess test recipe.
That's it. It's so simple. Truly noble heart is so sensitive to people's needs and their heartaches.
In the original fairy tale, the P-test was meant to demonstrate a true princess's extreme physical delicacy, but this movie tries to spin it as her sensitivity to other people's feelings, which somehow translates into not being able to sleep on a slightly lumpy mattress. Way to make this story make even less sense. But mainly, it's a mistake to have this big dramatic fire about 20 minutes from the end of the movie, because there's nowhere for the plot to go from there, especially when your climax hinges on a mild case of insomnia. So, on we move to sin number 8, the boring non-climax. Rollo passes out after failing to locate Daria, and while he's unconscious, Laird tells everybody that Rollo has agreed to marry Hildegard. Heath is happy, having been convinced that Hildegard is a model daughter because... well, I think it's well established by now that Heath is a moron. And since Laird tells Rollo that Daria is dead and Sebastian is delirious...
It's the princess, not the pig.
Okay, we'll allow the second part. He decides to do his duty for the sake of kingdom and plot convenience. But of course Daria isn't dead, and she shows up in town on the wedding day, and thanks to her niceness gets access to the castle, where Sebastian is still futzing over the pea thing.
Do you mind if I lay down?
I don't care how much thunder and dramatic music you throw in, you are not going to make lying down for a nap exciting. Naturally, Daria's super pea detection skills are triggered, and Sebastian recognizes her as the lost princess. But of course, Laird and Helsa overhear the entire thing, leading to a long series of general evilness getting thwarted in very unsatisfying ways. First, Laird tries to prevent Sebastian from revealing the truth, thwarted by a pig in a handbag.
Go left! Go right!
So Hildegard is exposed as a fraud, and Laird takes Daria hostage, tries to kill Rollo with a falling chandelier, and hits Heath instead, thwarted by bad chandelier aim.
At this time of sorrow,
I sadly proclaim myself king and denounce this girl as an imposter.
Wrong again.
So Laird and Hildegard escape with Daria into a booby-trapped secret passage. Yeah, there's a booby-trapped secret passage now, thwarted by more pigs. So, while Rollo is sermonizing on how it's not nice to be not nice, Laird triggers another booby trap, bringing the entire passage down an Oh Sweet Lucifer movie. Get on with it! What are you waiting for? Oh, a big dramatic confrontation atop a high tower, of course. Let's make this quick. Villain threatens heroine, hero almost falls to his doom, much maniacal laughing. Villains are sent plummeting to their... well, not their deaths, because neither they or the plot is effective enough to warrant it. Lovers are reunited, father and daughter are reunited, all ends happily.
I have a father. Oh, Father. My dear Father.
You look so like your mother.
Yikes, let's get out of here before this takes a turn for the donkey skin. On one level, The Princess and the Pea is a slight cut above the usual standards for direct-to-video Disney knockoff movies. The animation is decent enough, and while the songs are flawed, they're not technically appalling. But the story is a hodgepodge of half-baked ideas and heavy-handed moralizing, the characters are badly developed, and the whole thing stretches credibility, even allowing for the outlandish premise of the source material. Therefore, the Court of Musical Hell orders the following punishments. For being a bunch of complete drips, the heroes are condemned to be reassigned to one of those darker and edgier reimagining universes. For being completely ineffectual, the villains will be sent to remedial training under Zycon. And finally, for their inept world and character building, writers Ken Cromar and Forrest S. Baker are condemned to write an extensive report on the complete works of J.R.R. Tolkien and Robert Jordan. So let it be recorded. This session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell is now adjourned.